So I have watched a relatively old movie called Little Nicky. I had never heard of it before, despite its age. I had seen other Sandler films, but not this one. And I didn't know he did, fantastical movies. I mean, everything I've seen was pretty down to earth, as the metaphor serves, yeah. And it had potential to be something more, but you know, it was still, I mean, a Sandler film in the end, and it still had little tidbits, but it wasn't too funny. That's the problem with his movies. See, unlike say Jim Carrey, Jim Carrey is funnier, definitely, and at least it seems to me, and but Sanders just just I don't know, he's like a so yeah, he has done loads of movies, but many of them aren't very well received by I think you can say both critics and the audience alike. Considering he's in a lot of movies, I'm assuming somehow he still draws an audience somehow. But anyway, this one though wasn't too bad per se. I mean, it had tropes, it had stereotypes of demons and such. So I liked it in that sense, but a lot of it was still fairly lazy, I guess you could say. So, lazy stereotypes and such. Um, but it wasn't too bad. I guess one could say they made fun of demons and such. They made fun of this sort of mythology at any rate. He also made fun of and yet I could Tarantino came to mind, when I saw that creature, but somehow I didn't believe it was him at first. That was my lack of faith. Just it was him, so I don't know how they got him to be there. I mean, it's not exactly his kind of movie anyway. He doesn't do comedy. I'm not even sure he ever did anything related to religion or demons or such. But anyway, it wasn't so too bad. Yeah, it's I don't know why they got Henry Winkler, but I don't mind randomness. I mean, that's the whole point. There's a certain comedy to randomness. I think I could say. Um, yeah, that certainly is, and obviously the thing with Ozzy Osbourne was fairly predictable. I mean, he actually did something similar to what he did in the movie in real life. So yeah, whatever. Um, and well, obviously it's not. I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things, because I mean, the first brother who's sealed in the bottle stays there for the entire movie, and yet, um, the second that the other brother is sealed as well, he's released 5 minutes after. Nobody exactly explains how he's suddenly released, how he just magically released, Even if, one could say that Sandler is released through, his supposed love, wishing he was released, you know. The other one is, I just a mystery. I don't know. Did the angel were the angels supposed to have messed up and released him instead of Nicky? You know, uh, I'm not expecting a perfect movie with no plot holes. This is, just some comedy. But it's the problem is that it wasn't too funny, but it wasn't. I think the funniest bit is when the heavy metal heads are really enjoying themselves. That something is for real, and the bit with the preacher as well. When he says, "Yeah, I'm burning for real now," and we are really going to die, as if he knew all along that every time he ever said that it wasn't real. I think that could happen in real life. I think that's the most poignant bit. But other than that, I don't know. A bulldog talking, yeah, whatever. Marrying a mouse, Uh, yeah, whatever, I guess. So yeah, they could have capitalized more on, this thing that, like, he sleeps and he gets all those demonic howls from him and such. It happened a couple of times. I'm not saying it should have happened more, but they should have capitalized on more of that sort of stuff instead of running after the brothers, and I don't know. It was just a bit repetitive there. But it was kind of funny when these things, like even the priest in the church, saying everything in the just the opposite of what everything for what he's supposed to say. That was kind of funny as well. Not laugh out loud funny, mind you, but still funny. I mean, because you don't obviously expect such a thing to happen. And then what's interesting is how the audience reacts. How it would really react in real life. Whether they follow the priest if that's what they normally do, or follow what they're supposed to have to believe in. And for a bit there, they did show that they're supposed to have stood up for what they're supposed to believe in. But yeah, but then again, they just yeah, they just so it's something. I don't know. It's a bit strange, but it sort of had potential, but then didn't follow up. I don't know. It faltered a bit. Um, it wasn't too bad. I mean, yeah, I've seen sort of more boring Sandler films, but yeah, just it's a Sandler film. But it wasn't too bad again. I mean, it sort of reminded me of Horrors. I think it was called. It's a more recent movie with Daniel Radcliffe in it. It's more of a drama though than a comedy, but it did have comedic moments in it as well, like when he decides to get reporters to punch each other out and such. I guess that's comedic and in a similar vein to this, how demons can make people do stuff contrary to their supposed nature or such, and just generally finding out what people's nature is. It's all hypothetical, but I mean, and this was obviously more of a comedy, so I'm not expecting a thesis about that sort of thing. And Horns was more of a drama, so it's more specific to the plot points. But otherwise, yeah, they're fairly similar, I suppose, in terms of their dealings with humans. I mean, Horns didn't have any supposed angels in it anyway. But so, I mean, as far as comedies go, so you know, I like this so better when compared to other Sandler films because you know other Sandlers are fairly similar in terms of comedy and but this had this mythology about demons on top. Now, sure enough, it wasn't it wasn't like a demonology in movie form or anything, but it, what they did with it was interesting. At any rate, it's always sort of interesting. Everyone, um, I have watched quite a few horror films in the past, and so this is sort of like I didn't really make an attempt at horror or anything, but obviously it derived elements from some horror films. Kind of like ghost stories. I think it's true that I watched some months ago that also had some demons in it, a personification of Satan and such. But obviously this was comedy though, whereas that wasn't as usual. Um, but otherwise, yeah, it's always sort of interesting to see demons on movies and how different every adaptation depicts them. Obviously in horror movies, it's more austere, it's more solemn, and it's more, there's usually sometimes at least gore and such, and I think there was like a very minute amount here whenever he dies and checks it, but that's not really the focus at all. So I guess in that sense, it's always better to watch a comedy to dispense with that stuff. I don't know why there's so much, honestly, when it comes to horror, because it's not horror as I always say. It's just disgust mainly. Yeah, this wasn't anything too bad in terms of what it does and what it tries to do. It's not too funny, but it's interesting at the very least. You know, the little CGI they use was interesting as well.